Dr. Hakan Siver, President Abdallah Boul, dear colleagues, ladies and gentlemen, distinguished guests. You all have heard the classic introduction of many speech. I've got good news for you, and I have bad news for you. Where do I start? So let me start by the bad news, so you can wait, hopefully, for the good news. The bad news, I'm not going to list the numerous wars going on or in preparation. War in Sudan, hidden war in Sudan, war in Ukraine, war between India and Pakistan, and so on. I'm not going even to talk about the most horrible war going on currently. I mean the war, the genocide in Gaza. Because I do think that the most important thing is what behind the scene. And what behind the scene is extremely frightening. This is why I say it's bad news. When I heard the first time Yoav Gallant, the former Minister of War of the State of Israel, referring to Palestinians as human animals, you remember probably. At the time I said to myself, look, that reminds me of something I have heard. That reminds me of what Himmler said about Jews 8 years ago. You remember that he referred to the Jews as Untermenschen, less than human. And I said to myself, look, what's the difference between the suffering of the people in the ghetto of Gaza and the suffering of the Jews in the ghetto of Warsaw? And I said to myself, what's the difference between, this celebration of power, of violence, of military might between the Wehrmacht and the Tzahal? What's the difference? Unfortunately, I saw no difference. What's the difference between the fact that the super race of Germans was saying that whole East Europe should be German, and what the far right of Israel is saying that the whole West Bank should be Israeli? What's the difference? There is no, obviously there was no difference. And here I remembered what Sigmund Freud said. You remember Sigmund Freud, this very famous psychoanalyst. He said something very, very cruel and very true. He said, you cannot fight an enemy for long without ending up like him. This is the bad news. The bad news is about our human nature. It means that victims can become very easily perpetrators, very easily, because all of us, we have inside us a lot of instinct of hatred, of violence, and this is probably the most bad news that we have to face. War is not, we can hope to stop wars, but how can we change our human nature? So you would tell me, what about the good news? You said that you have good news. I'm going to give you the good news. The good news is that, as an Arab, I've observed very gratefully and how many people took to the street in Europe, in Africa, in Turkey here, to stand up with the Palestinian people. And many of them were Jews. Many of them were Jews. And this was extremely important for us, Arabs, to see that you have had a lot of people supporting the Palestinian people. Many of them are Jews. The good news also is that everywhere you have soldiers of peace decided to fight for peace. And probably the most important thing for me is that hatred, like storms in nature, they never last. They never last. See how German and Jews now are the best friends in the world. See how Russians and German are the best friends of the world. German and French are now the best friends of the world. Remember their history. Remember how they hate themselves, how long they hate themselves. So I do hope, and I do believe that Probably I won't see this on my lifetime, but maybe the next decade, Arab and Jews would become the best friends in the world. This is also the best part of our human nature. We have the worst and we have the best. So for the moment, we have to fight so the balance between the worst and the best would shift towards the best. This is why I think we have not to be discouraged by what we are seeing, but this awful wars we are seeing. We have to keep our spirit high. We have to fight for peace. We have, for the moment, the urgency is to stop the slaughter in Gaza. Can you remember, can you imagine that at this very moment, you have thousands of children starving. Thousands of children are starving. This is not acceptable. This is why I think this is an urgency. I appeal to this meeting, to send an appeal to the United States, the President of the United States, the President of Turkey, the President of everywhere, to do something, to stop the strategy of hunger, to stop this awful war, this awful genocide going on in Gaza. So we must do everything, coordinated our action to protest the war, to support the victims, to denounce the crime and the war criminal, and to build peace, a durable peace. Sometimes when I feel really discouraged, I always repeat to myself, look, it may be naive to try to change the world, but it's criminal not to try. We have just to try. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you very much.